Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Nishmat, we have a huge crowd today in Chicago. Rabbi Sai, it's time to say goodbye. I am leaving with my family, Be'ezer Hashem, right after Shirra. We're going to the airport, catching a flight to New York. I'm going to hang out in New York for Shabbos. I was invited there for the Agudah convention. Last minute, I just got tickets today. So I'll be giving Shirra tomorrow. I don't know if you'll be able to see the Shirra beforehand, but tomorrow at the Agudah convention, which is at the same hotel where MDY did the Shabbaton just a number of weeks ago in the Harmon Hotel in Connecticut. So tomorrow Shirra is at 2 o'clock. Motzi Shabbos Shirra at 7:30. Be'ezer Hashem promises to be a beautiful Maimed. I want to inform the Olam that Baruch Hashem, a tremendous thing happened. We tried, it was Yossi Klein's idea to finish half of Shas during the Shabbaton. And I advise them it's not, people come, they want to hear speeches, they're not interested in sitting and learning and plugging away, doing 10 daf each. But unfortunate circumstances with Binyamin Airley, and Klai Yisrael took it upon themselves to learn half a Shas. I think it's an incredible thing. How many people are Zokha that within a few weeks of the Ptira have a Shas? I'm not talking about Shas Mishnais. I'm talking about Shas Gemara. 1,400 daf Gemara for a 20-year-old. I don't know if it ever happened. So, Baruch Hashem, all the dapim are taken. As of maybe an hour ago, Yosef Bliak made a last-minute push, and people took. They all jumped in. I think there was 65 daf left, and within an hour or so, boom, all taken. The Neshama should have an aliyah. And I'm looking forward to seeing Robert, Be'ezer Hashem. So on Monday, we have tickets to go back to Eretz Yisrael. Monday will be my last day, Be'ezer Hashem, in the United States. On my way back to Eretz Yisrael. And we should hear B'suras Tovos. Looking forward to seeing Robert in person and seeing the whole Olam. Because I'm in a rush to get to the airport, and I haven't packed, of course. And I'm not exaggerating that I only got tickets to New York just a number of hours ago. So we're going to skip the emails, but I do want to bring out one very important thing, a big milestone for our very big yidden. And he said I should say his name and show this, because maybe it'll be mechazik one person. People struggle all the time with different things. Everybody has a struggle. And I think, if you're not addicted to this, you're addicted to that. And a lot of people are addicted to wasting time. That's also an addiction. Not being accomplishing, not learning Torah, just sitting and watching stuff and doing things. So here we have our very, very dear Chaver, Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein, a very big part of the Shir. I want to share with you. He's sober. Alcohol. It's 900 days. It's a huge thing because every day is a struggle. Every day, today's day and age with Kiddushim that we have, and everybody goes to Kiddush, and everybody gets a little tipsy, and not everyone, a lot of people get. It's a thing. It's a thing of our generation, and to keep away from it for 900 days. And then he writes to me, and 1,427 daf with Rebelli, and 80 of those daf is retroactive clarification, because he only started with us during COVID. Right in the beginning of COVID, he had COVID, and he was in his basement in Borough Park. That's where he found us. And since then, we became tremendous yidden. He did the Shir. So keep on going. Should go weiter and weiter. Never look back. All right. So today's Shir, the Masechta is sponsored for the unity of Am Yisrael, the Paras HaChodesh, refuah shlema, Dvora Basara, the mother of Gershon Ben Moshe. The Paras HaChodesh Hatzlocha L'zechus Yosef Mayer ben Rochel and yidden worldwide. Paras HaChodesh Nishmat Chaneh bat Elimelech. Paras HaChodesh Nishmat Mendel ben Pinchas, Paras HaChodesh Nishmat Zechraya ben Moshe, and Nishmat Zechariah bas Yosef. Brain intact, unleash your full potential. Should be zoichet the nachas the kedusha, and tremendous success in all my endeavors. The art of the month, sponsored Yosef ben Chaya Sorov, all the schusim that come from supporting Limud Torah. Rabbi Sai, here we go. We are about 9 lines from the bottom of Chof Ches, Koyach, Amud Beis. So we can look at the Mishnah. The Mishnah is on Chof Ches Amud Aleph. Nishbra kadoy b'rshus harabim v'huchlak bohem b'mayim v'huchlak echad b'mayim. I was just looking to the side here. Here's the picture on the screen. You have a person who was carrying some sort of jug in the Rishus Harabim, and it burst open, and somebody slipped on the water. So we have two cases. Or he got cut with the shard of the barrel. Chayav. By the way, it's your guys. You're responsible to fix mistakes, to yell something if there's an issue, if I'm skipping some words because nobody else is here. What's going on is that it's a small share because I didn't know that I have to catch a flight at 8 o'clock. So I just called it together real quickly. And this is what we got. Baruch Hashem. We have Taki again. We have Aaron. Aaron, I have to thank you every single day, basically, that I was here. He set up the monitors and the screens and all the... Okay. Rabbi Yehuda, maybe miskaven chayav, bein miskaven pater. So that's what we're looking for. Rabbi Yehuda says that if he had intent with this barrel, something, we have to figure out what he's talking about. But if he doesn't have intent, he's pater. He's only chayav if he has intent. Now let's go to the Gemara. Now let's from the bottom. Rabbi Yehuda, miskaven chayav, bein miskaven pater. Says the Gemara, what's going on here? What does it mean that he had intent? Omar Rabba, b'miskaven. Omar Rabba, b'miskaven lohirida lamata miktefai. You have a person. Imagine, let's say, a guy. It happens all the time. A guy comes onto a plane with a knapsack. And he takes off the knapsack, and he hits someone in the face. But over here, we're talking about he takes something off from his shoulder, and as he takes it off his shoulder, it's a heavy weight. He trips, let's say, on the sidewalk, okay? He trips on his shoelaces. He trips on the sidewalk. And the thing goes flying down. He wanted to put it down nicely, and it fell off his shoulder while he tripped. Now, we're going to see a big machlokes. Is tripping considered a poisheya, negligence, or he's not negligent? Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that nitkal is poisheya. Tripping, you're negligent. And therefore, since he tripped and he was negligent, so that's considered mechaven. He had kavanah, he had intent. So Abai says, wait a minute. Doesn't make sense. Why? We have a machlokes, right? We read the Mishnah. This is the first part of the Mishnah. Then we have Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says you have to have intent, not intent. Meaning the Tanakama, who happens to be Rabbi Meir, because Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, he holds that even if nifshira is the literal translation in Hebrew is melted. Basically, it broke into pieces. He has this jug on his shoulder and it broke into small pieces and fell. That's an oinus. He has no intent over there whatsoever. So you're telling me if Rabbi Yehuda says, well, he has to have intent, that means that the Tanakama holds even without intent, you're 100% chayiv. Yes. Here, have a nice. This is a nice art by Yaakov Kenner. So, did I say Yaakov? David Kenner. So here he is. He's holding a pitcher in his hand, and all he's left in his hand is the handle. Did he have intent to drop the thing? No, it just fell out of his hand. So Mela, that's the oinus. And in that case, Meir says chayiv. Ask the Gemara, why am I onusu? You know that if a person is against his will, he's a oinus. Obviously, he would much rather that the pottery shouldn't break off. They should be left with a full pot. We have this in this week's parasha also. We have Dina and Shechem. Would anybody think that Dina is going to get an avera for what happened with Shechem? No, she was forced. So the Torah says you have a naira amorasa, you have a young woman who's engaged in the time of the Gemara, meaning with a ring. She's mamish kudesha, she's eishes ish, and somebody who's ma'anis her. It's not her fault. You can't do anything to her. So you see that if it's against your will, you're an oinus, and the Torah says nothing happens to you. Says the Gemara, okay, maybe the Torah says, it's between me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Akash Baruch is not going to punish me. He knows that I didn't do anything wrong. It's the death penalty if a Ish goes ahead and Mizan. But if it's between Reuven and Shimon, and Reuven damaged Shimon, so he can't say, "Oh, it was against my will." A lot of things are against your will. You hit my car; it's also against your will. You don't want to hit my car, but somebody has to pay for the damages, and even though it's not your fault, and you fell asleep, I get it. You have a lot of excuses, but the bottom line is, you damaged somebody else's property. Maybe you should pay. Even so, you don't have to pay. Oh, here you go. Here's a guy that his camel fell down. And the owner didn't get rid of him. Didn't pick him up. Didn't Meir. What's the halacha? So the fact that the camel fell down. So let's do the Bryce again. 2 lines from the bottom. Two cases. His barrel broke and it didn't move the shards and everything else to the side. His camel fell down and he didn't pick him up. Chum say that he's chai b'din shomayim. I just want to tell you a few things because we're talking about a gamal. I think it's important to know what we're talking about. So a few very, very interesting things about a gamal. First of all, a camel could drink, I think it is 53 liters. So think about your car. Car probably doesn't have a 53-liter gas tank. It could drink 53 liters in 1 minute. And I think it could walk like literally 100 miles without drinking. It's very interesting. Do you know it has like 3 sets of eyelashes, of eyelids, and 2 sets of eyelashes, something like that. So Akash Baruch created a creature that is designed to make it through the desert. So, and there's many other. There's somebody bought a camel for $53 million. Maybe it's Mida Keneged Mida, 53 gallons. I don't know. But $53 million number. The point is that Akash Baruch Hu gave this creature the ability to walk through the desert. It's the way its hooves are, everything about it. Its lips, it has lips that can eat thorns. Its whole body, right? We know camel drink. Think about it. What I don't can drink now and get away with not eating for who knows how long. So Akash Baruch Hu created us also with all the tools. We have the tools to make it through life, whatever life throws at us. The hot sun from the desert, no water, etc., etc. We have those tools. So whatever tzaros we have and whatever things, Akash Baruch Hu gives the tools. Zok the Gemara. Now, there's a few rules here. Says the Gemara. The Chachamim admit to Meir that if a person puts a stone or a knife or masoi and his baggage, shenicham b'roish hagagoy, he put them on top of the roof, v'naflu, on the edge of the roof, v'naflu b'ruach mitzuya, and a calm wind came and pushed them off. So the Gemara says, v'ziku shu chayav. Why is he chayav? Because this is normal. This is a calm wind, and you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have put it on the edge. You know that it's most likely on a normal day, the wind is going to come and push this off down. Meir admits to Chachamim b'malikan kanem alagag. Interesting how we switch language, but the point is he put some sort of object on the roof, almanas lenagman, to dry them out. Like if you have water in a dish and you put food in it, it's very possible that that water that's not boiled will ruin your food. Will hurry up the process. We had once a Gemara that if a person puts water on his meat, that's it. You have to sell it for really cheap. So there's a whole Gemara. If a person prepared a wedding and then the father died, you can make the wedding because it's going to be a tremendous loss because of the water introduction. I don't know if that's the pshat, but he had some sort of vessel. He wanted to dry it out before he pours wine into it, which could ruin the wine. He wanted to dry it out first. and a ruach she'eino matzuya. What is eino matzuya? Here I have beautiful demonstration that Yoshi put together. This is not AI. This is hand done. Let me show you. Ruach she'eino matzuya means a wind that's not common. That he didn't have to think that there's going to be such a wind. Now, I want you to pay attention to both trees, the palm tree in the far, and the tree on the side. I like the way that they move. Everything is beautiful. Here, there's a lot of work that went into this. The leaves are moving. If you look on top of the roof, there's like a suitcase over there. Oh, I'm supposed to push the button here. Hold on. So that's that. Now we're going to go a little further to this. And that's that. Okay. So the Ruach Matsuya, basically, Shena Matsuya, Viziku, this guy went flying in a damaged True Potter. Why? What do you see from here? That even Meir holds that when there's a oinus, it wasn't something that you calculated. You didn't think there's going to be a tornado that day. And comes a very big wind and throws your suitcase off the roof. You're a potter. And we said that according to Meir, you're chayiv. Elomar Abayo, so what's pshat? Betarti pligi. Says Abayo, there's two arguments here. Pligi b'shas nefila u pligi lach nefila. There's one argument when it falls, and there's an argument what happens after it falls. And the Gemara explains. Pligi b'shas nefila. There's one machlokes at the time of the fall, benitkal pisheya. Whether or not, when a person trips, is he considered negligent or not negligent? Mar sovar nitkal pisheya. Meir holds that when you trip on a sidewalk, you trip on anything, you are responsible. Mar sovar nitkal pisheya. Yehuda holds that a person that trips is not negligent. Now, when are you chayiv? You're chayiv if you have kavana to break it. Now, there's another machlokes, pligi la'achar nefila. And there's another machlokes. Okay, so this thing fell. Now what? We have another machlokes, b'mafkir nizakov. So this is very super interesting. Could I throw a banana peel on the floor in the middle of a very busy intersection and say, I am making my banana peel hefker, and if somebody falls on it, too bad on him. It doesn't make sense that you should, right? Well, we have a machlokes. I know what you're thinking, but that's why we have a machlokes. Pligi lach nefila b'mafkin nizakov, that he had kavana to break it, and mar sava mafkir nizakov chayav. And Meir holds that when he just lets it go, lets it loose, he says, I don't want it anymore, you remain chayav. That's what you're saying. Well, mar sava potter, and Yehuda holds no, you potter. Says the Gemara, and why would I say this two machlokes? And what forced him? Two machlokes. One when as it falls, one machlokes, and another machlokes after it fell. Two completely different machlokes. Says the Gemara, because it says in the Mishnah two different things, or in the Brisa. No, it's actually the Mishnah. Yeah, it says two different stories. There's a guy tripping on the water. Or, why do I need two cases? A guy tripped on the water and a guy tripped on the orange juice. It's the same idea, right? No. It's two different machlokes. One is that a guy he slipped on the water, or he got injured from a piece of the barrel or the glass. Hainu the same exact thing. Elav, obviously the Mishnah is coming to teach us the chiddush elav hachikava. Huchlak echad b'mayim b'shas nefila. Before he had a chance to go ahead and clean up the mess. I'll tell you a story. It was a maisa where a guy comes and he sees a car parked like on three spots. So he's really annoyed at him. It happens a lot of times. Erev Shabbos in Rochel, and the guy's parked. It's a really nice car. He paid a lot of money for it. So he grabs 2 spots on a busy street. Guy got really annoyed. But it turns out, it's a simple story, but it turns out that the guy was doing a chesed because somebody dropped a bunch of like sharp objects on the ground that could puncture your tire, like a bunch of nails, whatever, glass. So he parked in a way that nobody should get damaged. Fine. Which reminds me now of another ma'isa I just heard today, actually, from somebody sent me a clip. Interesting. That, I forgot the guy's name, this Sephardi rabbi. Okay, so he said that a guy in Israel comes home to his driveway and he can't believe his eyes. He's been fighting with everybody to not park on his driveway. Here comes a guy and parks in his driveway. So he decided to teach him a lesson. He backs up his cement truck to the car and pours a bunch of cement on his car. He's all excited with his thing, and he runs into the house. As he runs into the house, he screams, "Surprise! It's his birthday!" And they gave him the keys to his car. And he just poured all the cement on. Okay. He says, it's a ma'aseh shahaya. It's a ma'aseh shekamataya. It's a ma'aseh sheyochel liyos. Whatever. Fine. Oy shaloka becharses lachar nefila. So, we have 2 stories here. Either a person slipped in the water before he was able to do sponge and clean it up. Or oy shaloka becharses, or he got injured from one of the pieces of the glass. And the guy was mafkarit. He said, I don't want the glass anymore. Lachar nefila. After he didn't have a chance, he was sitting there. He was lazy, I broke a bottle of glass. How many people break a bottle of glass in the middle of the street and they clean it up? They walk away. He's mafkarit. Now what happens if somebody gets injured? So that's where we have machlokes. Says the Gemara, umed demasnisim betarti. And since our Mishnah, we just explained it to be 2 separate machlokes in Brisa nami betarti. So the Brisa, that we had 2 lines from the bottom of Amud Beis, that his barrel broke, his camel fell down, he didn't pick him up. Also betarti, because the Brisa is mimicking the Mishnah. So just like the Mishnah has 2 separate cases, the Brisa wanted to repeat something similar. Brisa nami betarti. So the Gemara says, wait a minute. If that's the case, it's 2 stories. We need to explain how these stories worked out. We just explained beautifully, if a guy's glass, let's say, has a nice bottle of wine, it breaks. There's 2 points of the breakage. As it breaks, he doesn't have a chance to pick up the mess and somebody gets damaged. Or later on. And later on is a question of hefker, not hefker. Okay. 2 different machlokes. Elo gemaloi, but how are you going to explain the second case in the Brisa as 2 separate cases? Which Taisus asks a beautiful question. Who said there's 2 separate cases in each? Maybe one case is like in our Mishnah. It's 2 separate cases. You have water, which means at the time of the spill, and then you have the shard of the barrel, which is later. Who said they didn't take the water and make it into 2 cases? Now you want to take a camel, which is 1 case out of the 2, and make it into 2 cases. Okay, that's Taisus has 2 theories. When it comes to a camel who fell, great. Talking about a camel that you were mafkir in a leilo. Let's see. I think we had it already, but here, this guy. Yeah? Camel, you left him there, and the guy said, I don't need him anymore. Why am I going to bring a chaver kedisha for camels? Leave him there in the middle of the street. Comes a guy, trips on him, and breaks his knee. So now, machlokes, chayiv and not chayiv. As mafkirit in the middle of the street, machlokes. Rabbi says you're not chayiv. Aaron says I don't understand why. Okay, but this is machlokes. But if the camel was walking normally and the camel tripped, so why is that the owner's fault? If the owner trips, you're saying, okay, nitkal, a guy that trips, is he a posheya, not a posheya? But when a guy's animal trips, why should the owner be liable for a tripping animal? Omar Avacha Kugoin the Abro. Let me find the picture before I show it to you. Here we go. Beautiful picture.
Would a fallen camel be considered a boar, a pit?
A what?
A pit, a boar?
What, a camel?
Yeah, a fallen camel, will that be considered
yes,
a boar?
Anything.
So
even a peel of a banana is a pit. That's the exact machlokes. He had a camel and he gave up ownership. Is he chayav a potter? According to Rav Yehuda, he's chayav. According to Meir, he's potter. But how do you have the first case by a camel? So the Gemara says, I'll tell you, here's the case. Check this out. Beautiful. Now what? They were walking normally on a pathway. Suddenly, the pathway was full of water. So the camel couldn't see where he's going, and he tripped, and he causes damage later. But whose fault is it that he tripped? That's the owner's fault. When the camel is walking, and he trips on a sidewalk, great. But over here, the owner, the master, brings him into this puddle, and that's what causes the tripping. So it's actually the owner's fault. That he went into a puddle that was in middle, like a river that came in middle of the pathway. As the Gemara, what's the case? If there's two ways to go, why did this owner bring him right through the water? He's a complete pisheya, he's negligent. And if there's no other way, then he had no other option. He should be considered a oines. It's not his fault. What happened was the owner tripped, fell down. Now tripping, we had a machlokes, is tripping your fault or not your fault? So the owner tripped. So it's the owner's fault that he tripped, let's say according to the Manomar. And then the camel tripped on the owner. So it is his fault. As long as you hold that tripping is your fault, then the camel tripping on you after you trip is your fault. And if you hold that your tripping is not a problem, so you're going to hold that the camel tripping on you is not a problem. It's not, you're not chayiv. Says the Gemara, Mafkin is Zakov, my miskavenik, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Thank you, Mark. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that you were mafkir it's talking about that you were mafkir your stuff, your broken bottle. So it's not yours anymore. It's hefker. If it's not yours, then why exactly you had kavana? You had intent. Okay, you had intent. Now what? That the guy should had intent to put it down. You had intent to what? Why is that intent going to make you chayiv? It's not yours. You took away what you had. You say got rid of your ownership. Absolve your ownership. Says Gemara, my miskavenika. No, he didn't. He didn't do hefker to the glass. He wanted the glass. He wanted to use it for something. It's a beautiful story that there was a Rosh Hashiva going around collecting money in France. He walks into this wealthy guy's home. And he sees a beautiful menorah and all sorts of things, and the guy's, silver closet, whatever it's called. And he looks and he sees a pile of broken glass. So he says to the owner of the house, Mazeh, what's going on there? What is this? So I'll tell you. He came from a religious background, but he decided to go off. He moved to France, and he wasn't practicing religion. And he's walking the street, and he sees a religious kid, a frum kid, crying. So he says, what happened? Kid says, my father sent me to buy oil for the menorah, and I tripped, I fell, and it broke. Mamish fits into this story over here. And I can't come home. He doesn't have money for another bottle of oil. He's not going to let me home. So the guy felt really bad. He went to the store, bought him a bottle of oil, and says, go. And then later on, he starts thinking to himself, look at this kid, and look at his family. They barely have money. The kid is struggling. The kid said his father can't afford another bottle of oil. And he spends his money on oil. And it started making him think about Yiddishkeit. And he said, you know what? I want to do tshuva. That's what he said. Based on this thing, it got him going. So he went back to the street, and he collected all the glass. And that's his little souvenir. What is it called? His, what's the word I'm looking for? Not memento. Okay, you don't have to send an email. It's fine. I got the word. No. When it means a lot to you, sentimental. Thank you. Sentimental to him. So he's not going to get rid of this broken bottle of oil. He has it in his thing. Now he's a from Yid. Zog the Gemara. Ravashi also explains that we're talking about a situation where the individual wanted today we don't understand poverty. We don't understand these things. We live in a different world. But in those days, a little broken glass, maybe there's something you can do with it. So Mela, like somebody gave us from the broken glass under the chuppah. From my chuppah, they made some sort of design. Some people want glass. Okay. So when Rebbe Elazar says the statement, only when it falls, before you have a chance to clean it up, there's a machlokes. It seems like there's no other machlokes. So Gemara says, and later on, what do you say? They're called potter. Everybody's going to agree that it's potter. It can't be. Meir says that afterwards, if you try to say that it's hefker, you're going to be chayiv. So, Elomai, divrei hakol chayiv, with 2 lines from the bottom. So you have to say the pshat is, according to everybody, you're chayiv. That what? That after it fell and you had a chance to clean up the mess, and you don't, and you're mafker it, that's what you were saying before, makes sense that you're chayiv. Oh, we Rabban in the patri. Rabban say you potter. Elomai b'shas nefila. So what did Rebbe Elazar say? Rebbe Elazar says while it falls, there's a machlokes. In other words, when it fell, immediately after it fell, there's a machlokes. And you want it to be medayik that after it fell for a long time and sitting there, there's no machlokes. No. There's a machlokes in everything. Elomai b'shas nefila. Av b'shas nefila. No. What Rebbe Elazar about to say? There's a machlokes in 2 things. That's exactly what Abaye said. What did Abaye say? Abaye said we have 2 machlokes in over here. One machlokes is when the bottle breaks, right then and there, whether or not is somebody who trips, is he considered negligent or not? And then we had a completely another machlokes. The guy waited 10 minutes, he had the opportunity to clean it up and he didn't. And there's another machlokes, could you be mafker, could I say, all that broken glass is hefker, let somebody else deal with it. Now holding Daf Amud Beis, the turning the Daf, sponsored by Chanan, Averbuch. Eli Nishmat, Binyamin Meir, Ben Ze'ev David. Wow. Klal Yisrael got together. It's an unbelievable show of Achdos. From Hasidim to Litvaks, from Sfardim to Ashkenazim, from Chayalim to anti-Chayalim, if there's such a thing. Everybody took dapim. My holy nephew, son of Robert and Jenny Airley, and Eli Nishmat Binyamin Meir ben Zev David Airley. Unbelievable. Mamish Achdos. Look at the names. You have Rochel guys, you have Chayalim, and everything in between. Zog the Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, top of the Amud. We're doing okay. Rabbi Yochanan Amar lachan if machlokes. I better get home soon. Got to start packing. Rabbi Yochanan Amar lachan if machlokes. Aval b'shas nefila ma'ay. Rabbi Yochanan says no. There's only a machlokes. It seems like he says there's only a machlokes after it falls. And the question is, could you be mafker or not? Aval b'shas nefila ma'ay. But what about immediately by the fall? Is there a machlokes of nitkal any b'sheh or not? Divrei hakol potter. That what? That when you trip, you're not negligent. You're potter. Everybody holds that. That's what you're going to say according to Rabbi Yochanan. As the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, come on. Later on, Rabbi Yochanan says, look, Rabbi Yochanan himself says, there's a man called Rabbi Meir. And Rabbi Meir says that tripping, you are negligent. Michlal, Rabbi Meir mechayev. No, it's before Rabbi Yochanan says there is a machlokes in that case. In the idea of nitkal pusheya, we could use it that when a person trips, he's a pusheya, meaning person trips. He went to a wedding and he couldn't do the daf. That's your fault. You have to take full responsibility. You're a pusheya. You can't say, "Oh, this and this happened." Pusheya. Okay, take it any way you want, but it's a nice lashon. Nitkal pusheya. You trip. You're a human being. You have to be careful. However, Rabbanan argue. So you're going to say, when I missed the daf, I'm like Rabbanan to the Roiv. Okay, here. The mafkin is Zakov, the hachu the patri Rabbanan. Oh, Geschmack. New svara. When does it work? You hear? This might answer some of the problems that we have here. When does it work to say my broken glass is hefker? Only in a case where you weren't negligent to begin with. When you tripped and the bottle went flying out of your hands because you tripped, you're nebuch. In that case, you could say, hey, I don't want the glass anymore, I'm afker. The anusu, because he's honest. The alma, but if you stop, you take a bottle, throw it on the ground, take a banana peel, put it on the floor, and say, oh, it's not my fault, it's his, let him deal with it, I'm after the banana peel. That doesn't work. It's only when it goes flying out of your hands from ha'inus, then it can work. Itmar. And here we go into the machlekes. Ma'afkin zakov. A person says that the nezek, the broken glass that's on the ground, that what do they call it? Like dresser that he put out in the middle of the street. I'm after. We have a machlekes. The problem is we don't know who says what. So the Gemara, all the way to the bottom of the Amud, is going to try to figure out who says what. But what is the machlekes? Chad Omar, one of the two, either Rabbi Yochanan or Rabbi Elazar says chayav. You cannot say I'm being mafker a banana peel. Chad Omar Potter. No, it's not yours anymore. The guy slipped on a banana peel that's owned by everybody, not by you. So the Gemara, Meir. Remember, we just had the Meir says in the machlokes of after the barrel fell, and you waited a while. Could you be mafker or not? And we said that according to Meir you can. L'chayr, this is the same machlokes, right? Uman the potar kerabanan, the one that says yichayiv is like Meir, the one that says potar rabbanan. Now, yeah, because Meir spoke about even in a case where he tripped with the za'inus, even in a inus, he says you can't go ahead and be mafker yichayiv. So Gemara, no. Maybe everybody holds that according to Meir, there's no machlokes that everybody's going to hold chayiv. Okay, that if you try to disown whatever object it is, the glass, whatever, after it happened, you're chayiv. Kipligi, I'll leave the rabbanon. So the machlokes won't be in Meir, the machlokes will be in rabbanon. Man the potar kerabanan. Whoever says potar holds like rabbanon. That what? That when you mafker your stuff, you're potar. And this is within rabbanon. One man says this is exactly what rabbanon say, that you could be mafker your stuff and you're potar. Now, if you can be mafker your stuff, how do you have a bar? How do you have a bar? The Torah says there's a bar, right? But you mafker. No. It's talking about a bar in your rishus. Rashi goes through the whole sugi like that, back and forth. In your rishus, you mafker it. We'll have a little bit more later. I have a bar. I have a backyard. I dig a big hole, and then I say, you know what? I'm giving it over to the rabbi. The one that says Yechayiv, Averbuch will explain. I know that I'm going to have to do the rabbanon. I'm talking about even according to rabbanon, not telling you about the rabbanon. Elo b'mafkin zakav da'hacha. When the rabbanon say that you potter only in this exact case, like we said before, when it was a inus, when you tripped, you fell, you broke the bottle of wine that you were holding on the way to a guest on Shabbos, and the bottle of wine broke. Then you could be mafker. Mishum da'anusu, because it's not his fault. But if you broke the bottle, let's say deliberately, and then you say, you know what, I don't want to be chayiv because somebody's gonna fall here and get cut, and they're gonna come to me, so I'm making it hefker. That does not work. It only works when the bottle went flying out of your hands unintentionally when you tripped on the sidewalk. So now, who says what? Again, mafker nizakov. 2 words. Can I take broken glass in the middle of the street? Can I take a banana peel and say, not mine? Machlekes, Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Yochanan, we're going to try to prove who says what. It's time that Rabbi Elazar with the Amar Chayiv. I'll prove to you that Rabbi Elazar says Chayiv. Domer Rabbi Elazar, Meshum Rabbi Shmuel, because it says in the name of Rabbi Shmuel is Rebbe. Shnei dvarim einam b'rshus shel adam. There are 2 things in this world that are not your real property. V'asana kasav, and the Torah made it. Ki'ilu ein b'rshusai. You are responsible for these 2 things. Veilohem, what are the 2 things? The first thing he says, Rabbi Elazar says this. Bar b'rshus harabim. Oh, in other words, you cannot be mafkir your bar. It's Rosh Hashanah. It's owned by the public. He says it's yours. What's the difference if you dig a hole in the middle of Rosh Hashanah? Let me see. Oh, I did this one, Rabbi Isai. You want to see my art? It's not bad for the first try. Guy's digging in middle of the Rosh Hashanah. Yeah? Bar Rosh Hashanah. V'chometz b'sheishois u'lemalo. Don't look at it like this. There's 20,000 people that will be watching this year later. V'chometz b'sheishois u'lemalo. Chometz, after Chatzois on Erev Pesach, is Osir Bahana. So if it's Osir Bahana, you like, hold on, let me just go back. You like the little Magen David I put on the truck over there? Like, feel like the chassid with, he's in a tour cart, but he has an Israeli flag on his car. I love it. Anyway, this is how he arrived here to dig out the hole. In the middle of Manhattan, the guy's digging a hole. So what's the halacha? It's not his property. It's hefker. It's worse than hefker. It's not his. What never started to be his. Nevertheless, Rabbi Elazar says you're chayiv. So certainly, if you're mafker, you're chayiv, right? Okay. There's another thing. Since the Torah says you're not allowed to have anah from this chometz, it's after Chatzois, Erev Pesach. So Mendel, it's not really yours. You're not allowed to have anah from it. If you can't have anah from it, you can't benefit from it. It's not yours. But the Torah put it right back into your possession in order to be chayiv on this pasuk matzas yochel eish shivas hayomim veloy yira l'chacham. It's the famous pasuk veloy yira. You are over an aveira for having chometz, even though it's not yours. It became yours. The Torah put it in your shoes. Says Gemara to stayim. Okay, great right. By the way, there's a famous mashal that these two things, I think you could take the mashal to over here as well. You know, in all the svarim it says chametz is the Yitzhahara. So perhaps you could say that a bar and a Yitzhahara, these are the two things that we're fighting with. A bar are the obstacles that we have in life in front of us. They're exterior obstacles. There's this, there's that, different things that we have to be careful with. And the Yitzhahara is the chametz. The chametz is inside of you. So you have obstacles inside your head or whatever, and then you have obstacles on the outside. That's the remez over here. There are two things, a bar and chametz, that are not yours. These are obstacles. But the Torah made them yours, kilo. And what does become yours? Torah. Torah becomes yours, and you take that Torah and you fight off those obstacles. To stay. Says Gemara, oh, well, I don't like your right. In fact, the Gemara is going to switch it around. The Rebbe really say this. Rebbe said the opposite. It's not. Listen to this. If a person sees animal waste, the worst of the worst, who wants to dog waste in the middle of a sidewalk? A guy decides to be a nice guy. He lifts up the dog waste in the middle of a sidewalk. And then he put it back down. And somebody was damaged. Now he has to change. He has to get new shoes. Terrible. You are chayiv. Why? You made a kinyan. It became yours. You removed the obstacle, and then you put the obstacle back down. There's a famous, the famous book, Go My Son, by something Shapiro. I forgot his name. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about? Go My Son. Chaim Shapiro, I think it is. You're looking it up. Great. So, I think it's Chaim Shapiro. So he says over there that when he was in the war, he eventually made it to Uzbekistan or something. And believe it or not, the most prized possession was animal waste. That they could use it and heat themselves up with animal waste. Can you imagine? Today we fight, the shampoo is not the right fragrance that I wanted, and I thought about it. They used animal waste to heat themselves up and get rid of mosquitoes, which chase the mosquitoes away. And they were all day looking for animal waste. Whoever could find more animal waste won. Had a better night. Okay, so this guy, maybe in those days, who knows? And we had in the Gemara, they used to make dishes out of animal waste. Right? We had such a thing. So he picks up a piece of waste in the middle of the Omar Rabbi Elazar, this is the Rabbi Elazar we're trying to prove. It's only because he wanted to make it his. He wanted like Chaim Shapiro. If he just wanted to move it over, he didn't want to be zoicha, he didn't want to acquire it, potter. Why? Because the bar has to be in your possession. Alma, mafkir nizak of potter. So you see that Rebbe Lazar over here holds that when you're mafkir your stuff, you're potter. A second ago we said that according to Rebbe Lazar, mafkir your stuff, you're chai. You know why he's chayiv? Because in this case, he lifted up the waist, put it right back down. And this is fascinating, Rabbi. So this thing right here is fascinating. This is very lumdish, very lumdish. I think if you think about it for a minute, you might come out with a different conclusion. Think about it for a second. There's glass on the floor. You lift it up and you put it back down. Who's chayiv? The guy that broke the bottle or the guy that put it down the second time? Anybody?
The person picked it up and put it back down.
That's what you think. Person that picked it up, put it back down. Here's another question. You have a pit. There's a pothole. And you remove the cover of the pothole and put the cover back down. We're going to see a fascinating thing here. That when it comes to a pit in the middle of the street, in the middle of this, there's a big difference between putting a cover over it or filling it up. Does it make a difference to you whether somebody filled up the pit completely with dirt or they covered it with a lock? Is there a difference? To me, it doesn't seem like there's a difference, but there is a major difference. One, we consider the pit still here, just it has a cover. And if you remove the cover, you didn't put the pit there. The guy that dug the pit did it. But if the pit was completely filled with rocks and dirt, that's completely different. Then we get rid of the pit completely. Let's see inside. We're talking about he picked up the dung, the waste, and he put it right back down. I'll give you a good mashal. Says it's compared to a guy that found an open pit. In other words, there's a bar over here, a real bar. And he covered it. And then he went and he uncovered the pit. So who should be chayiv? He says it's a great example. There was waste on the floor. You lifted it up, you removed the bar, and then you put it back down. Just like a pit. It was open. There's a bar in the Rosh Hashanah. You covered it, and then you reopened it. Says Gemara, no, there's no comparison. It's amazing to think about the difference. Think. This makes you strong in machshava and understanding Gemara and understanding Lumdis. What is the difference? Again, there's a piece of waste that if anybody comes here and steps in, it gets damaged. You remove the waste, so you're the guy that removed it. You put the waste back down, so you're the one that did it. You're the one that put the waste there. Then you have another case. You have a pit. If somebody comes, he'll fall into the pit. You covered the pit. Now there's no more pit. Now you uncover the pit. Now there is a pit. So you're chayiv. No, the Gemara says they're very different. What's the connection? What's the comparison? When you cover the pit, you never got rid of the pit. The pit is still there, just with a cover. And then you remove the cover. But when you remove the waste of the animal, so at the time that you removed it, there is no waste. There is no bar. There's zero bar. It's not a bar with a cover. It's zero. You know what it's compared to? What about a guy that found a deep hole in the ground? In the middle of Rosh Hashanah, he went and he filled it up with dirt. He took a tractor, filled it up with dirt. But then he redug it. In that case, this talkula Meiser Rishon, he removed the bar 100%, and then he brought the bar back. That, Rabbi Isai, is a problem. So, what's the pshat in this Gemara? So how come if you, what's pshat in the Mishnah? you pick up a piece of waste in Rosh Hashanah, and somebody got damaged with it, you're chayiv. Rabbi Elazar says you have to have kavana, not kavana. So Gemara says Elom Ravashi b'shafocha l'pachas mishleisha. What happened was he lifted it up. Let's say this is where it was. Lifted up this much, not 3 tefachim, but just this much, and then he put it right back down. So he's never kainet. Says the Gemara, and that's why he's potter. Says the Gemara, my duchke. But otherwise, if he lifted it up this much, then he removed the bar completely. By him putting it down, he created a brand new bar. If he lifted it this way, it's so close to the ground, as if he didn't lift it, maybe love it, whatever. Without going into that, he didn't make a kinyan in it. He put it right back down. It's the original guy who put it down. That's his fault. Says the Gemara, my duchke. Why does he have to force himself to say that he lifted up less than 3? The time of the and then Rabbi Elazar goes into the whole thing. If you had kavana to be zoicha, no kavana. Forget about kavana, no kavana. Just say he lifted it up the proper amount, which is 3 tefachim. He created a brand new pit, a brand new bar by lifting it up more than 3, and it's his problem now. So what do you have to say at kavana, no kavana? Says Gemara, I'll tell you why. The reason why he went into this whole thing, if whether he had kavana or didn't have kavana, he had a problem with the wording in the Mishnah. He figured it out from the Mishnah. Why does it say that he flipped over the waist? Listening to the normal language would be, comes a person, he lifts up the dog waste off the sidewalk. Nobody uses the lashon of, oh, the guy was a nice guy, went by the sidewalk, and he flipped over the waist. Oh, because it says flip over, that indicates to us that he never lifted it up the proper amount. Means that it was less than 3 tefachim. Now, once I can prove that Rabbi Elazar Machayav, then who's the other man? So obviously Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says Pater. The Rabbi Elazar Machayav. That what? Nachamal. If you're mafkir your hezek, you say, I don't want this waste, I don't want this, whatever it is. According to Rabbi Elazar, you're chayiv. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, you be pater. Rabbi Yochanan, but nan, the Rabbi Yochanan really say that, but nan, we learn in the Mishnah. Havatzniya is hakoitz. Somebody hides glass, a thorn, in Rosh Hashanah, and somebody steps on it. Could be worse than Lego. Worse than stepping on Lego. Here's a nice picture of a house that is surrounded with barbed wire. Comes somebody and by mistake picks up his hand and gets a terrible cut in his hand, needs 25 stitches. Who's paying for the damage? And a fence fell into Rosh Hashanah, somebody tripped on it. And somebody got damaged by it. You are chayiv in the damage. So mafriach, you see over here, I put in the words mafriach. Mafriach means it's leaning out into the Rosh Hashanah. He doesn't have the right to put his fence right there in the Rosh Hashanah. But if it's nice and close to his property line, then you potter. Even, and there's a nice knech over here, even if he was mafkir his rishos. Remember, because we're talking about your bar, according to one you have to be mafkir rishos, otherwise it's not a real bar. Even if he was mafkir his rishos, it's potter. Says the Gemara, my time at potter. Why are you potter? Isn't it because he had a pit in his rishos? In other words, he had barbed wire in his rishos, and he was mafkir. He said, "I don't want that anymore." But he didn't. He wasn't mafkir the barbed wire. He was mafkir that whole property over there. You see that you're chayiv even when the bar is not his, even if it's in Rosh Hashanah when it's not his. So you see that Rabbi Yochanan, you said hold that in mafkin is of potter. You see mafkin is of chayav. He said all the barbed wire is the hezek part. I'm mafkir, and he's chayav. I'll tell you, mafkin is of potter. It could be that everybody holds that when you're mafkir your stuff, you're potter. My time at potter. How come over here You potter when you have a barbed wire that's with your property line. Because it says, it's not normal for a person to scratch himself on a wall. And he doesn't have to be worried that somebody's going to scratch himself on the barbed wire. Did he really say this? Rabbi Yochanan says the halacha is like an anonymous mishnah. Usnanim, we learned in the mishnah. If a person, here, first of all, two pictures. Here is a picture of Mafkir Nizakov. Person says this banana peel is Hafkir and he's hoping that somebody will trip on it. And here's a picture of Hachayfer Bar B'Shus Rabbim. He digs a pit in the middle of B'Shus Rabbim, and the Novel takes a Shara Chamor B'Meis, and some bull donkey falls inside of it and dies. Not like in this picture. He actually died. So you see that according to Rabbi Yochanan, hold on, where were we? Yeah, and you said that according to Rabbi Yochanan, in fact, Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says chayiv. So we go back. What do we say over here when we said this tayim? Just want to see. Oh, we said that we wanted to say that according to Rabbi Lazar is chayiv, and we said this tayim is a right. Now we're saying the opposite. Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says chayiv. Okay, so once we establish Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says that if you're mafkir your hezek, you're mafkir your glass, the banana peel, you are chayiv. Then obviously Rabbi Lazar argues. We didn't know who said what. One said this thing, one said the other one. So once we know Rabbi Yochanan said chayiv, automatically Rabbi Lazar says pater. But we have a big problem. We proved that according to Rabbi Lazar it's chayiv. Rabbi Lazar mishum Rabbi Shmuel, that whole sugi that we had in the name of his Rebbe, like Ashia, Hadiday, he himself holds your pater. This whole thing that he brought was his Rebbe Rabbi Shmuel, as we mentioned before, his Rabbi Shmuel, the day of the Rabbi. So there's no shaila. So bottom line is Rabbi Yochanan says chayiv, Rabbi Lazar says pater, and Shalom Yisrael. I'll see you Be'ezer Hashem tomorrow live from the Agudah convention. Boisai, have a wonderful day, and we'll say real quickly Tehillim. We say it together and quietly. No, I'm kidding. Just not a lot of people. So Shirra Malois, Mimama Kim, Yosicho Adonai, Adonai, Shema B'Koili, Yenos Dovka Shabbos, Lekoy Dachanoi, Ima Vaynois Tishmario, Adonai Mi Amoid, Kimcho Aslicho Leman Tivorei, Kibisi Adonai, Kivson Nafshi, V'Ledvora, Yecholti, Nafshi Adonai, Mishemrim, Laboiker, Shemrim, Laboiker, Rochel Yisrael, Adonai, Kim Adonai Achesed, Varbei Moifedus, V'Hu Yivdes Yisrael, Mikol, Lavan Yisov, Achenu Kobis Yisrael, Hanasunim B'Tzoro V'Shivyo, Hoindim Bei Mayom, Bei Mayabo, Shamokim Rachman Leim, Zim B'Tzoro V'Vacho, Me'afel Loyer Mishim L'Gulo, Hashto, Maglo B'Zman Korib, Rimar, Amen. Shkoyach Mark, Shkoyach Chicago, Shkoyach the Chadar of Shul. Thanks for hosting us. And Be'ezer Hashem, Chadra will come to Eretz Yisrael, and we'll see Mashiach soon.